was not created by a medical professional. It was done by one man and his guests on the show talking about their struggles with mental illness. If you are having thoughts of suicide or in a state of distress, reaching out is the first step towards safety. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255 or text TALK to 741-741 to text with a trained crisis counselor from the crisis text line for free 24/7. If you know someone who may be at risk or struggling with depression or anxiety or any mental health issues, please follow everything in the description below to help those that are in need. Life can be so very rough.
Sometimes I get sad. What do you do when you get sad?
This is Something Gives with Josh Ronquist, a show from the mind of someone dealing with mental health issues, wanting to talk about life, mental health, and music with musicians, fans, and those in the business.
I want to feel good about myself, and I don't know how.
How do you not be sad?
I'm here to spread the word, to talk about our struggles, and what we can do to get better.
I'm responsible for my own happiness. I can't even be responsible for my own breakfast.
While this show cannot cure any mental health issues, sometimes the mind just needs to not feel alone.
There's a lesson here for all of us.
So let's begin the show. Hey everybody, this is Josh Ronquist, and this is Something Gives with Josh Ronquist. This very well could be episode 2. This might be a 1 point random decibel for an episode, as this might be too short for me to consider to be a full episode. We'll see once I actually get this edited, but I want to put out some new content for Something Gives, because even though I do have guests that want to be on the show, I'm still preparing to get that part out there, to get in that mindset to be able to talk to people about their struggles and stuff like that. And also listening back to the first show, even with it being as extensive as I got it, I do feel like I left some things out. And I also just wanted to try to give an update on everything that's happened since the release of that show. First off, the show, even though it's still small in stature, I am overwhelmed by how many people have checked out the show so far, have enjoyed what they've heard, have been recommending the show to others that have been struggling, and I've been getting emails. I've been hearing that podcasts are talking about me and this show. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about how my struggles and the fact that I'm willing to talk about them has helped, and that is exactly why I wanted to make this show. It's a bit of purging for myself as well. It's a lot of things that are constantly going through my mind all the time, and it does feel nice to say them out loud, even though I'm by myself right now. I'm recording this at 12:30 in the morning, and I'm just sitting here in front of a mic. It does feel like that I'm kind of giving like a TED Talk or a lecture or just reaching out to some good friends right now, despite the fact that I'll be heavily editing this to make it sound a little more coherent and you're not just hearing dead spaces and stuff like that. But the fact that the first show went as well as it has and people have enjoyed it as much is just overwhelming, and I love that fact so very much. And if you have not checked out the first show, I implore you to go check out the first show, episode 1, A Plea for Understanding, which, if anyone caught that reference, that is the final track off the latest album from Pallbearer. And that is such a great album, and that song in particular really stuck out to me, and especially that title, A Plea for Understanding, because that's also what I want this show to be about, because, again, mental health is not taken seriously enough, and I want people, myself, or anyone else that wants to be part of the show, sending in emails or wanting to be a guest on the show, to give their pleas for understanding of what they're going through. It's not a write-off, it's not a reason for someone to be a terrible person. It's not even so much just for forgiveness or anything like that. It's just trying to understand where those people are coming from. Some people get very scared. Some people get very worried. Some people get very angry, antisocial, depressed, suicidal, anxiety-ridden. Lots of traumatic feelings can happen from all these different variations that happen in mental health, and there is no exact reason why it happens. To a lot of people, they think we're just faking it because they're not going through it, and for the very sad reason that unless you are hurt physically from any mental problems that you have going on, either self-inflicted or anything else, people will not take it seriously because oh, it's just all in your head. Of course it's all in your head. The mind makes you think however you think. Of course there's other outside sources that can change things, and there's chemicals, and there's imbalances of those chemicals. There's hereditary issues that could happen. So many things can affect the mind, which is exactly why it should be talked about. And like I said on the very first show, this show does not have the answers. This show is not coming from someone who is a doctor or a therapist or psychologist or anything like that. I'm just a guy, a 30-year-old guy, sharing my struggles. And anyone that comes onto this show, unless I explicitly point out that they are in the medical field for mental health, are not a part of the mental health field either. They are people also just going through their struggles. And that's partially why I'm kind of doing this particular episode, be this episode 2 or 1 point random decibel, because I am really struggling right now. I've kind of pinpointed where the issue is for me. I just don't know how to get past it. Back last July, which is weird to say now, it's 2019, and thinking of 2018 as last year is so strange, and the fact that it's the 23rd of January right now just blows my mind because I feel like I just watched New Year's happen last week. But regardless of all that, back last July, I had what could have been so much worse of an injury, physical injury, where I slipped in the shower. After I was done, I was about to step out of the tub. I slipped in the tub and I landed on my left side, and I landed pretty much right where my ribs and stomach are. Like, I fell straight down. Had I not had my hands in another position, my head would have landed face first and possibly my neck, depending on if I didn't have my arms there, and I very well could be dead. And ever since then, I've not felt right. Even though my head did not get injured physically in any way, shape, or form, as I was falling, my life did flash before my eyes. And it did bring up all of these bad feelings that I've been going through before that little accident, and especially after that accident. Just all of these things that are constantly going through my mind all the time. And one thing that it keeps coming back to is that was right before I turned 30. If my life would have ended right there, I would have thought I lived a terrible life. A life that I wouldn't want anyone to have to go through. A life where I would want to be used as an example of what not to do. And I know that's a terrible thing to think about myself. And especially there is that, it can be sound logic, I suppose, but again, it kind of goes into that thing of mental health where, especially if you are depressed and you're going through anxiety or trauma or any of these cases with mental health, mental illness, you never feel like you're good enough. And especially since that time, even though I'm healed up physically, like, it took almost a month. I was luckily able to celebrate my birthday without pain, but it took me a long time to get there. It took me a month of just waiting for my body to heal up. But mentally, I still feel like had I died right there, I would not have been happy with the life I led. But getting back into what I was saying before, I have so many accomplishments, especially in my music career, being it playing drums, be it my main radio show, be it interviews and reviews and amazing experiences that I've had in my musical career. I still feel like I've not done anything that I can be proud of. Like, if I go back into my life and I look at these things, I can say, yeah, those were really great experiences. I'm glad I got to do them. But I still feel like I haven't lived a day in my life. That's a horrible feeling. And especially since that time, it's been harder and harder for me to go to sleep. Now, I know what some people are thinking. It's like, oh, well, the mental health thing, just trying to get the right amount of sleep. Absolutely. I absolutely do what I can to make sure that I do get X number of hours of sleep. Obviously, just like in anyone's life, you're not going to get that every single day. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm thankful to be in a position where I don't have a set schedule, mainly because when I do interviews, it's never a set day, it's never a set time throughout the week, every week. It's different every single week. Sometimes I could be doing 10, 12, 15 interviews in a week, which I have done. Other ones, like potentially this week, I'll have 0. It completely varies. It varies on the labels, it varies on PR, and that changes more often than you think. It varies on the band's schedule. Sometimes you line it up and they don't get a hold of you. Sometimes there's some crossed wires. There's so many different examples, but I am able to get a good amount of sleep. My problem is wanting wanting to go to sleep. It's a fear of going to sleep. Not a fear that I'm gonna die in my sleep, but a fear of I can't go to sleep without feeling like I've accomplished something. A fear of if I don't constantly try to improve myself, if I don't constantly try to improve that drummer guy, if I don't find a reason to be happy, I can't go to sleep. I don't feel like I deserve to get sleep. I feel like I'm a lazy piece of garbage if I go to sleep. I'm not sure if anyone else feels that way, but sadly I do. And it's really been affecting me lately. Every single day since my depression kind of went down in December, it is heavily creeping back, sadly. But right after I did my best of 2018 reviews that are up on thatdrummerguy.com, if you're interested in the music side of what I do. And just a little bit on that, just in case you're not familiar with what I do every year. What I do is I make a top 100 albums, X amounts of honorable mentions, and then I do other lists covering like covers or epics or EPs. And I'm also trying to branch out a little bit more with that, like with gaming and wrestling and stuff like that. It's all up on thatdrummerguy.com if you're interested. But the point being, what I'm getting at is that's usually the busiest time of year for me because I try to catch up with everything that I've done throughout the year. And with that, I constantly feel like if I don't keep that level of work up, that I'm not doing anything at all. And I've always felt like I do nothing, which is amazing because I know there's some people out there who do a ton of interviews every year, but I'm sure I'm wrong in this statement, but I don't know anyone personally that has done as many interviews as I have over the past 7 and almost 3/4 years, which is nearly at 600 interviews. I can easily do over 150 a year at this point, which if you cut 365 divided by 3, I can easily hit an interview every 3 days, if not more. And that takes a lot of work, which is kind of shocking because you think, oh, you're just talking to rock stars, but there's so much more into it than that. Because if you've ever listened to my work, you know that when I do interviews with people, and hopefully that's the case when I start getting guests on here for Something Gives, that when I do interviews, it is not the same as you hear with other interviews where you're asking the same questions over and over, you're looking for dirt, you're looking clickbait articles and stuff like that. I don't do that. My work involves actually listening to the album and giving off my perspective because I can't fake things. I wish I could, and I would probably be a lot more successful if I could fake it. If I started doing misleading headlines and clickbaits and eye-catching thumbnails on YouTube and, constantly doing what others are doing to grab people's attention because people love drama. Some people can't live without it. They crave it. That's not me. I am just not a drama guy. I love watching a good drama, like a movie or TV show or something like that. And yeah, I'll be lying if I say that those headlines don't get my attention as well. It doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to click on those things. And if I do, I want to see what's misleading about it, but I don't want my work to be filled with that. That's why I label pretty much everything as interview with ... That's just who I am and what I want to accomplish because I care about who I interview. I cover the music that I care about, which is quite vast if you look through all my interviews that I do. But I don't just talk to people just to promote an album. I want to get to know these people. I want to know what's going through their mind when they're making an album. And even if it's not my favorite album in the world, if it's not my favorite band in the world, I still feel like there can be that connection because those people are making something I care about, music. And everybody has a different story when it comes into music. Some are easily 100% in it for the money. When you get into rock and metal, though, you have to have a passion for it because rock and metal is not selling right now unless you hit the jackpot, and not as many bands are doing that these days. There are some, obviously there are some, but otherwise you're doing it for the sheer passion, the love of what you're doing. And that's why I do as many interviews as I do. But I would also be amiss to say that I just love being able to talk to people as well. And that's something I've also been dealing with as well, which I did mention back on the first show, but just to bring it up again, where I do have this fear that's been going on of being around people. Not all people. And it's so weird. If I'm at a concert or something like that, especially with bands that I know, love, and care about, I'm completely fine. If I'm in a group of small people where I know everybody, or even if there's like a couple people that I don't know, I can almost be the life of the party. I always try to make people laugh. I always try to make people feel comfortable around me. And I always assess the situation going into everything, and I never want people to feel uncomfortable around me, which might be a real diatribe for me. It might be a reason why my mental health goes on, because you can't please everybody. And I still have that in the back of my mind where even though it won't prevent me from accomplishing what I want to accomplish, it can still hold me back. But regardless of that, I can still get uncomfortable, like if I'm at a mall, if I'm at the grocery store, if I'm just walking around. Any of that stuff can happen when it's people I don't know, because I constantly feel like people look at me and they can just see I'm a failure. Unless I know ahead of time that there is some kind of connection that we got going on. If there's something I know about that person or those people or whatever the case is, if there's some kind of connection, like at a concert, it's like, hey, we're all here to see a band that we enjoy, hopefully. So I can feel more comfortable. When I don't know people necessarily, I immediately freeze up and think, what am I gonna do to make myself look even more pathetic? And with that, I feel so much more comfortable nowadays being able to do interviews sitting right where I am right now, talking on the phone or through Skype, and talking with these people, be it great minds, be it brand new artists, be it ones that have been around for 50 years, whatever the case is. But other situations, I freeze up and I can't talk. Some people know that as a speak when spoken to mentality, and that is how I am 100%. And even when it comes into those interviews, I immediately freeze up before those interviews. When I hit record, when I say hello, everything is perfect. But if I have to call the person first, or if I need to get a hold of them on Skype first or whatever, I start panicking really, really bad. I'm thinking, oh, I'm bothering this person. Even if we have it all set up, date, time, everything's perfect, I constantly feel like I'm bothering that person, even though it's planned out. That's also why it's really hard for me to reach out first when I'm going through my struggles. And since the first show, people have been coming out to me and asking how I'm doing personally, which is amazing, and I'm so thankful for that. Because even though if someone tells me that they can always be there for me, I can get a hold of them day or night, text them, call them, whatever the case is, I can't do it because I feel like I am taking something out of their day so they can talk to me. It's an irrational fear, but it's one that I had since I was growing up. And that leads to a part that I totally forgot to talk about more in the first episode, my dad. I realized it after I hit stop when I was recording the first show that I didn't really go into enough detail about my dad, which I'm going to keep this one short. I really don't want to break down and cry again on the show. I mean, if I do, I want to leave that in, to keep this raw and pure, but I'm just gonna go over some bits and pieces here with my dad. When my mom snapped, my dad pretty much kind of dissolved himself from the family, except for my brother. To this day, those two are connected so very well, and it boggles my mind why they are. I mean, there's parts of it I absolutely get. I mean, my dad was a truck driver pretty much his entire life. He loved working on trucks and cars and stuff like that. He would travel the country. He would travel all around the Twin Cities when he got more of a local job of what he was doing with truck driving. It always changed. And my brother, of course, being my dad's son, they really, really connected when it came into automotive stuff. So they were always working on trucks together. They were always riding dirt bikes or something like that. They always had that kind of connection, and they still have it to this day. I didn't have that connection. There was things that we obviously we talked about and stuff. I mean, I still remember back before I stopped watching wrestling my first time, we would talk about wrestling and stuff like that, and we'd occasionally watch it together. And of course, all this was before my mom snapped. But after that, he just kind of stopped caring. He cared enough, and he really loved the fact that he could tell his friends that I was in a cover band that was playing around town. He thought that was better than anything I could ever accomplish with my life. And I know I really disappointed him when I stopped doing cover bands and wanted to focus my attention on original music. Not just because it wasn't the music that he enjoyed. I mean, my dad's like a diehard country and classic rock guy. Mainly country. It wasn't the type of music that he had a problem with. It was the fact that because I wasn't doing something around town, I wasn't doing something that everybody else could see, that it felt like I was doing nothing. And from what I understand, I know some people have told my dad that I am still doing interviews and still doing all this stuff, and supposedly he's proud of me, but I honestly don't believe that. He has, in so many ways, shown that he doesn't truly care, because I don't make as much money as he did. I don't make as much money as my brother did. My dad is a huge money person because we struggled pretty much my entire life when I was home. Lower middle class, if not poor. I would even dare to just say poor, but I know there was people that had it way worse than I. And I don't know what the national statistics are. I don't want to get into that. I'm just saying we had a rough life. And because of that, my dad felt if you didn't have money, you were nothing. If you didn't have enough money, you were nothing. And because my brother got a job doing something like working on cars, working on motorcycles, that kind of stuff, my dad could be so proud of him. And because he was the first child, he made sure that my brother got every single thing that he could ever want. He would constantly co-sign on cars and bikes and all these things, and then eventually end up paying for it because my brother would not pay for it because he would just spend all of his money on alcohol and cigarettes. And from what I understand now, he's a huge gambler now. He's got a very addictive personality amongst all of his anger and horrible tendencies towards me, but you can go back to the first episode if you want to hear more on that. The point I'm getting at with that is at some point when my brother was too much for my dad. By that I mean is, with all the stuff that my brother has done to me, he also does it to every single person in his life. My mom, my dad, my sisters, my grandma, anyone that was ever attached to the family, to his friends, his former friends, all of his girlfriends that he's ever had. He uses people. He uses them and sucks them dry of all their money and possessions and all these things. And when he doesn't get his way, he does everything he can to either destroy them physically, mentally, or financially. And when my dad started realizing that, he made sure that I would never end up that way. But his way of doing it was to not be there for me. Whenever I had problems, he constantly told me to never go to him, keep it to myself. A line that constantly goes through my head all the time: nobody cares about your problems, keep them to yourself. If you got problems, keep them to yourself. And that was right around the time that my mom snapped. I was fully 12 years old around that time. I don't know if it was like a few weeks or months after, but I do remember that vividly. Him telling me that on the phone because I was having a rough day regarding school, and that never left my mind, and it still hurts me to this day. And maybe on the grand scheme of things, I mean, if you want to talk about like universally and stuff, like my problems do not matter, your problems do not matter, this Earth's problems do not matter, especially if there's other life in the universe. Earth does not matter. I get that. But as I don't control the universe, I will probably never see anything other than Earth in my lifetime. I can only go off of myself, the people I care about, those that I see, and those on this Earth. So even with over 8 billion people in the world now, I still feel completely alone, and I feel like I can't reach out, even if other people tell me that. With my dad, again, what I was getting at with my brother was he still continues to this day to make sure that my brother's okay because he feels like my brother is too far gone. He has to make sure that my brother's okay because he thinks that he failed as a father with my brother. So he has to constantly make up for it by making sure that all of his needs are met, even before his own. And even when I just needed a call, a conversation with my dad, it was always struck down to me that my problems do not matter. So bringing that back into my pre-teenage years, my teenage years, and obviously up to now, where I'm feeling so completely dark and lost, I, to this day, feel like I don't have anyone I can rely on, and it really hurts. I feel like I just have myself, which again is crazy to think about because I know there are people that care about me. I have people that reached out after the first episode of Something Gives came out that had no idea that I was going through all this. I've had people that I've been friends with online for almost over a decade now that has seen my struggles, especially with me opening up over the last few years online, that check up on me just to make sure that I'm okay. And of course, even though she's sleeping right now, I have the most amazing girlfriend I could ever ask for that tries to make sure that I am okay. When she is awake, when she's home, she does absolutely everything she can to make sure that I'm okay. She loves the fact that I do what I do as that drummer guy. She loves the fact that I'm spreading the word of music. She even said that she considers me like a preacher of music because I'm so open-minded when it comes to music and I don't want to spread the message of hate, be it, oh, I hate that band, I hate this album, blah blah blah, that I just want to focus on the good and bring that out. And of course, when it comes to that, there is music I don't enjoy, obviously. But the point is, I don't need to talk about it. There's everybody else in the world that can talk about what they don't like, and that's always going to bring more attention to people, especially online. Again, people crave drama. That's why reality shows are still a thing. That's why Temptation Island's back on USA Network, because they love that kind of drama. Be it real, be it fake, be it garbage, whatever. People love that kind of drama. And if they can get that into something they actually care about, like music, they want to have that discussion about how they hate an album or this band sucks or whatever. They want to fight. Whether they agree or disagree, they want to fight their point and they want to feel like they're right. That's not me. I just want to promote good music. I want to promote good people. I want to promote good messages. Not necessarily in a religious standpoint, but just good music. Because good music is everywhere. And of course, I focus my attention on rock and metal. That's just who I am. But anyways, again, I apologize for how incoherent this might sound. I know I had more of a thing that was going on with the first episode, and I apologize if this has just been one big incoherent mess, but that's kind of what's going through my mind right now. Every day, I feel like I wake up and whether I do 5-6 interviews in one day, whether I do no interviews at all, whether I go outside and enjoy the day, whether I stay inside and try to shut myself off from the world, I constantly feel like I'm a failure. I don't feel like I can ever do something with my life that I can be proud of and stay proud of. Even with all the accomplishments that I have, I mean, that's just what happens with mental illness sometimes. And I know there's something that can break the cycle out there. There might be the right prescription that'll do it. It might be the right line of therapy, possibly yoga or meditation. Just take more vitamin D. I don't know, change of scenery, more friends. Maybe I need to join another band again, despite being burned as many times as I have, either through my own faults or through the band's faults or just the chemistry not being there. There's so many variables, and I know there's someone listening right now that feels the same way. Maybe not as drastic, maybe even more drastic, but it's hard not to feel like a failure sometimes. And I just really hate that I've been constantly feeling like this for months now. I mean, I had 4 solid months of depression, suicidal depression. I had a knife to my throat. I had a pair of scissors to my throat back in November, both. And not at the same time, 2 separate incidents, even though it was the same night. And I don't think I really recovered from that. I've had more of the anxiety take over me now. I constantly have that fear that I will never get to that next point in my life where I'll be happy. And again, it feels so crazy to think about because I have accomplished so much that I've wanted to in my life. I look back and I look at all the interviews and I've gotten to talk to almost all of my heroes in music. And this is me, just a 30-year-old guy in his apartment, just sitting here talking in front of a mic as if I'm talking to the world, which I might be, depending on how much this picks up. Just a guy who wants to spread the good word of music. And I've gotten to do all this just by myself. I'm not a big corporation. I'm not a well-known company. I'm just a guy, and I've gotten to do this. And again, that's a sad thing with mental health and how it can be correlated into so many different facets, especially when you look at recent suicides in the last few years. Anything from Chester Bennington to Chris Cornell to Keith Emerson. Despite what you've accomplished in your life, that doesn't mean you're going to be happy. For some people, happiness is just being able to support themselves, support their family if need be, and just chugging along. For some people, they feel like they need to accomplish something that they feel like they could have never accomplished in their entire lives, but they finally did. For some people, it's setting a goal, being able to meet that goal, and then setting up a bigger goal and continuing that cycle, constantly building goals and trying to achieve them, and then making bigger goals. For me, I'm not sure what it is anymore. I wish I had an answer. I still love what I do. I never want to give up what I'm doing as that drummer guy and what I'm doing here. But on a night like tonight where, again, I'm alone because of the normal hours that I keep. Just to pull behind the curtain right now, it's past 1 a.m. as I'm recording this, and it's going to be a little different. It is when it comes into editing and EQing because I'm taking out dead space to make it feel more coherent. But it's past 1 a.m. here. I'm by myself. I don't have any family I can call. I don't want to wake up my girlfriend as she has a busy day of work ahead of her tomorrow in what a lot of people consider to be a real job, a job that is something to be proud of. Where a lot of people may look at my life as either the coolest thing in the world or not a real job. And that's another reason I feel like a failure at times as well. Despite me being a one-man operation and accomplishing so much I've wanted to in my life, far beyond my wildest of dreams I've been able to accomplish so far, despite just being one guy and still being a pea dribble in the sea that is entertainment, I'm not well known. You can occasionally see my stuff posted from things like Blabbermouth and Metal Sucks, Metal Injection, and Brave Words, and all these great bigger sites. But I constantly keep getting a punch to the gut every time that I see people that I haven't seen in a long time, be it at a concert, be it randomly when I'm at a store or something, or if I'm just out and about somewhere and I just happen to run across someone I know that I haven't seen in a very long time. I tell them what I do, and I'm 100% getting the reaction of, but what's your real job? As in, you can't possibly be making money at what you do. You can't possibly be doing that full time. You can't possibly be just living off your girlfriend and being this lazy sack of crap that I imagine you are because you say that you're doing this for a living. No. What are you really doing? And it breaks my heart every time because I am actually able to have a career doing what I do. And I'm so thankful for that. I'm in that position where I can be, and not everybody gets to do that. There are those that slave 9 to 5, if not 5 to 5. If not working, 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, if not more, and struggling to make ends meet. And I guess it's another reason why I can feel selfish about this. Not saying I should, but you can see how someone would feel selfish for feeling like, wow, you get to do this for a living, and you're still not happy. What the hell's wrong with you? Can't you see why you get to do all these great things? Why are you not happy? And again, it all stems back into mental health. And again, that brings it back into the suicides of, very notable people, especially in the last few years. They get to achieve those goals. Some of them are the best voices in music, be it either vocally or instrumentally. Some of the best known people in the world when it comes to music and their proficiency in that music. It doesn't mean they're happy. And it's really hard to say what it is. And when you don't struggle with mental health, when you don't surround yourself with people that are struggling with mental health, if you don't know someone personally that is really struggling with mental health, you can become better to the idea. And I think that's what happened with my dad, breaking that back all around. Having not grown up in a good life himself, he didn't know how to react to me failing mentally, and he didn't want to deal with it, and to this day, doesn't want to deal with it. During my last conversation with my dad, I told him about how my brother tried to get me to kill myself again, and rather than talking to my brother, whether doing something drastic like calling the cops on my brother or disowning him or anything, I get from my dad, just ignore him. That's just your brother. Apparently to my dad, that's a normal thing, and I'm whining about it, and that broke my heart, and it still breaks my heart. I would love to talk to my dad again and try to set things right. And I tried in that conversation because it wasn't the first time it got brought up. But with my family, we don't even put the fun in dysfunctional. We're just a dysfunctional family. It could be a lot worse if there was substance abuse and illegal crap that was going on, but it's mainly just mental because it's a lot of, I don't want to deal with this when it comes to mental things. And you distance yourself when those kind of things come up. And with my dad, I wanted to try to make things right because we have a lot of unresolved issues that I'm not going to go into on here. And I tried bringing those up and talking about them and want to get past them. My dad denied any of those things happened. He even denies my brother doing what he's done to me. And I made the very hard decision to not speak to him. Every single day, I feel like I should call him and apologize for me being a terrible person. Because I don't know how long my mom has left, my dad has left, how much I have left before I completely give up and make attempt number 9. And I feel like when it comes into that, I failed as a son. I hate feeling that way, but I really do. I know there's some people listening that might even think that I have failed my family because of that, but there's also the point where I can't be around toxic situations, and that's what it was with my family in all facets. There was so much toxicity that was going on, and I'm sure there still is. But I also remember every conversation when my dad would call me every day to check up on me and let me know what was going on in his life and what was going on with family. It was never positive. My dad would never bring up positive things. He would only bring up negative things. And I was surrounded by that for decades. Just constant, overwhelming negativity. Be it death, be it hatred, be it bad things that were happening, all of these things. And I just could not be surrounded by that anymore. And now I feel like I'm more alone, which really hurts. And I think I just need to make new family. I think I need to make new friends. And I hope at some point I can do that, because I think it is so important to have good things a part of your life. Even if they aren't the cure for mental problems, having people that can be there for you is so important. And bringing things back around to the very beginning of the show, wrapping things up here, I am forever grateful for all the people that have reached out to me since the beginning of this show, the people that have reached out to me online for the last few years since I've been talking about these struggles, for the people in my personal life, my amazing girlfriend who would do anything to make sure that I'm okay, and all of these things. Because if I didn't have any of those outlets, especially with my suicide attempts, with 8 suicide attempts, no less, only one of them I wasn't stopped. And some of those people aren't part of my life anymore. Some of them are my girlfriend. But if I didn't feel like I had nothing in this world to continue on for surrounding me, I know one of those suicide attempts would have worked. Whereas I'm thankful that there are outlets out there, and I want this to be an outlet as well. And hopefully with episode 3 of the show, I'll be able to help with other people as well, because despite what it sounds like, I have had people reach out to me, even before the show, that have reached out to me when they're standing on top of a parking garage, or they have a gun in their hand, or a knife, or they're in their car and they're about to end it all, but they see my posts, they can relate to me, they reach out to me because they just need someone to reach out to, and they're so desperate for someone to talk to. And if you listen to my interviews, you see how positive I can be. If you see me online on my personal page and you see what I have gone through, you can see that I can try to be a positive guy. And if someone does reach out to me when they are struggling, I want to just relay what keeps me going, because even though I'm feeling absolutely horrible right now, and I'm sure this episode is 100% incoherent, and I apologize for that, but I want this to be as real and authentic as possible. I don't want anyone to take their life again. If it was up to me, suicide would not be an option for people, because I always feel like there is a chance to be able to progress. And when I say that, I mean, there's the other road that you can think about, like when it comes to the terminal stuff, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about when it comes to mental health, when it comes to wanting to end your life because you don't see a way out mentally, because your mind can play tricks on you that you can't even fathom are possible unless you're living through it. But if you're listening to my voice right now, you're still here. I'm still here. There's still a chance for us, and everyone's gonna have their own path. Every single person. Some people needs psychiatric therapy. Some people need a therapist. Some people need medication. Some people just need a good friend to talk to. Someone needs to make some physical changes. Some people need to relocate. Some people need to take on a new hobby. Some people need a new career goal. Sometimes you need a new physical romantic relationship. There's so many different things, and there's never a complete answer for every single person. But every single person has a route that they can take to get better. And knowing all of these options and knowing what's right for you is the way to do it. And when I do have someone that's reaching out to me that is at their wit's end, I want to be there for them. And it makes me feel so much better that someone would even dare ask me for help. And I don't give them the normal thing that you always hear, like, it's gonna get better, it's gonna get better, you just have to try, all that stuff. Because that stuff's already out there. We know this. There's so many different ways that you can go about wanting to progress. And the overall thing that I always continue to say, and will always say to end out every show, is that we are still here. Even with me being at my lowest I've been in quite some time, and wanting to make this show is kind of an attempt to make me not fall further. Whether it works or not, we'll find out. But if you're listening to this, I'm recording this, you show this to somebody, someone stumbles upon this, we're still here. And until we're not here anymore, we always have the chance to get better. Everyone's route to getting better is different. It's always going to be different. There's no be-all end-all for any situation when it comes to mental illness, but we are still here. I'm so thankful to still be here. I'm thankful to be in the state of mind to still want to be here. And to wrap it up, I am so thankful for you listening to this very, I understand, incoherent show. But again, I really wanted to just make this as authentic as possible with someone who is really struggling right now, struggling for a reason to still keep going. I want to keep going, but I can't lie and say that I'm okay. I'm not okay. I'm not sure if I will be okay. I want to be. I'm trying to be. Still gonna strive to be. There's no guarantee I will be, but if I end it now, I'm making the decision to not be okay, and I don't want to do that. I want to be here for everyone that cares about me. I want to be here for myself, and I want to be here to be able to help others, be it themselves or other people, and just get that point across that mental health can take so many lives, but we can do something to fight it and make our lives better. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I'm hoping episode 3 will be way more coherent, especially when I start getting guests on the show. If you want to be a guest on the show, if you want to be able to tell your story either as a guest, or if you want to send an email, either using your real name or being anonymous or whatever the case is, please message me at thatdrummerguypr.com. My apologies. Thatdrummerguypr@gmail.com. Or get a hold of me on Facebook, get a hold of me through That Drummer Guy, whatever the case is. Just know that That Drummer Guy is Josh Runquist, and I do Something Gives with Josh Runquist, and I want to help. I want to help myself. I want to help anyone that reaches out. I want to help anyone to tell their story as well. And thank you so very much for tuning in. This was a very incoherent therapeutic purge that I did, and if you made it through the ride, I thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you check out the next episode where I hopefully start getting guests in the show and really making this something that can go worldwide, and just getting that point across that mental health is such an important thing that needs to be talked about, to hear these stories and to help each other progress. And until next time, this is That Drummer Guy saying, see ya. This has been Something Gives with Josh Runquist. Tune in next time where we continue the discussion of mental health, music, and life in general. Make sure to check out all your favorite social media sites to follow what I do as Josh Runquist and That Drummer Guy. And until next time, just remember,
it's always worth it. Hang in there, stay positive. It's worth the fight.
this show was not created by a medical professional. It was done by one man and his guests on the show talking about their struggles with mental illness. If you are having thoughts of suicide or in a state of distress, reaching out is the first step towards safety. Call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255 or text TALK to 741-741 to text with a trained crisis counselor from the crisis text line for free 24/7. If you know someone who may be at risk or struggling with depression or anxiety or any mental health issues, please follow everything in the description below to help those that are in need.